So you have been dealing with this problem since I think last few years about software testing.
Yeah.
So what do you think the future of software testing, like tools like this? I think this is probably one of a kind. I haven't heard such tool before. Like I know about Bazel incremental build, like it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
build the whole software. But to test only a subset of your test cases, I think it's still one of a kind. So what do you foresee the future of software testing going forward?
Yeah. So there's like, I think two things going on. The one is like ensuring quality became a lot bigger than testing. So at Sun, again, this like 20 years ago, we were shipping package software. A lion's share of the quality came by running tests and making sure that things are good before you ship it. Now, for the most of the people, that's not how we ensure quality. I mean, testing is still a key pillar, but now we have other means like feature flags, controlling, doing a smarter rollout, using monitoring to flag the failures before too many customers get impacted. I feel like there's more defense in depth. There's all sorts of practice combined, like each of them designed to reduce the risk, accepting the fact that some bad stuff is going to happen. So I think there's a lot of that going on. More of that is going to happen. And then narrowly on the testing side, I think what needs to happen is focusing more on the increments. Again, Sun was in the business of selling this package software, and then we are releasing it every maybe once in 3 months, or major releases every once 2 years, and then minor release like every 6 months, and then patch release every month or something like that. I mean, that's kind of like a time frame we used to operate on. So then having a full test cycle that takes 2 weeks, that's kind of okay. Like it's painful, but it was manageable. If you're trying to ship every day, like deploy every day, you cannot possibly have a test 2 weeks. But the amount of tests that you amass could easily run up to those. So I think the way to make this work is it's almost like movie frames. If you look at the reels, there's a 24 frames per second or something like that, right? One frame to the next is only going to change a little bit. But if you try to inspect every frame thoroughly, then you're not going to have enough time. Maybe you can do it like a 1 frame per second, not 24. So it really creates this natural upward limiting how frequent can you do. So I think the right thing to focus on is not to look at 1 frame in the movie, but look at 2 frames in the movie and compare the difference. Because if your speed goes up, the delta is going to go down. So I think that's the change that needs to happen. Some people are doing it crudely, like hotfix. There's a different process. Some teams have a different process for hotfixes, like this expedited lanes. That's like a very crude way of, well, the hotfix is small, so we should be able to do something small to put that into production. So it's the same thinking. I don't think that they are doing it consciously, but that needs to be more embraced and become more daily routines.
Yeah, I mean, like hotfix, yeah, I must admit, I also have this kind of high speed lane where you probably you don't write the whole test. Sometimes even you are so confident that you just deploy it like in whatever way. So I can see definitely with tools like this, and hopefully in the future, more and more such tools available, we can improve this kind of hacky way of doing the software deployment. So I think that will be great, definitely. So I saw another talk that you gave maybe a few months ago. It's about data-driven DevOps, right?
Yeah.
So what do you mean by data-driven here?
I mean, I talked a little bit about how like we should go from manual transmission to automatic to continuous variable transmission. So my thesis is by and large, the way people put together the delivery process is by gut and instinct. So how do you go up from there? I think the next step up from there is to use the data that comes out of the system to help you make the right decisions. Is this test failure flaky? And then the experienced person who's been with this project for long already knows that, oh, sometimes it fails in that way. So it's a tribal knowledge. When I say data-driven DevOps, I mean like don't rely on this human experience and let the system tell you. We should be able to find that kind of information from data. So that's fun. And then I gave like a few stories of how the real world team was able to do something seemingly very small and easy and still managed to get a lot of value out of these efforts. There was one example of a guy doing a regular expression pattern matching on the last X lines of build log. The regular expression, of course, that has to be like the tool that we bring in. Oh, it's almost got this like a smell of a duct tape solution right from the beginning. So depending on how stuff failed, if the infrastructure failed, if the CI build testing infrastructure failed, then you want to notify the CI team. If the failure is due to the application code or the test failures, you're going to notify the application developers. And then nothing is worse for the CI team, for the app developers to get notified of a failure of the CI team because it really hurts their credibility. So he wanted to defend his own fame against this. And that was really effective. I can totally see that. So those are a great example in my mind about how you're using data to make a little bit improvements here and there. So I'm not trying to talk about a number of pull requests per day, story points. I'm sure those are good for some things, but that's not what I mean. But it's more the tactical improvements we can do. So that's the kind of story behind data-driven DevOps.
So for those kind of scenarios, then how would you actually collect the data? Because it's not integrated most likely into our tools, into our software development. So how would you track all these data and actually use that to do this retrospection and also improve in the future?
Yeah, so luckily, we are not the only people who are suffering from the data problem. The whole world is going through the quote-unquote the big data thing. And so there's a lot of people building these, getting data from whatever marketing, sales, etc., customer interactions, and then try to extract useful knowledge out of it. So this is a well-traded space, lots of BI solutions. And I've seen a number of teams over the last decade, they built their in-house solutions. You can spot those. Those are a dime a dozen. Now, if you ask me, then this might sound a little selfish, but that smells like back in the days where every company was building their own CI system because they needed it. But it takes time, and trust me, you don't want to do it. So I think that's a sign for me, this more general solution needs to appear. So that's part of the motivation for me doing Launchable. It's clearly this is a universal problem, and if people are solving it on their own, we should be able to do better than that.